And as a reminder for our tier list, I honestly believe that every character in this game can be used successfully in a party to clear most endgame content a lot of the times, but we're judging them based on extremely busted mechanics, highest potential, whether they're the ones allowing you to use DPS characters and they're allowing you to cycle through your deck, providing AP and allowing the hyper carry DPS characters to achieve their highest potential, or if the hyper carry DPS character or sub DPS character is someone who benefits the most from that sort of broken play style, or a mix of the two. So we have the busted tier. If you level these characters up, you will probably find a spot for them somewhere eventually doing something broken on your account. They are the end all be all of a lot of the mechanics and abuse in Chaos Zero Nightmare. Tier 0 is just below that. Maybe they're not the epitome, the top tier of busted in every single facet, but they are exceptionally powerful. Maybe they have a little bit of a lower ceiling for bustedness, but maybe they have a higher floor. Maybe they're easier to use, but don't hit the highest potential as the people in the busted tier. High tier is specifically what it sounds like. They're kind of just very good in their own ways. They're probably best at what they do, even if it's not some of the most busted mechanics in the game. They're still going to be able to have a team built around them, and you'll be very successful with them as the core focus of your party. Mid tier is just what it sounds like. They're not really busted. They're not unusable. They often show up in teams and fulfill a certain role, and they do it quite well. Not worth it a lot of the times is someone you could use and be very successful with, but if you just chose someone who is in a slightly higher tier than them, you might be better off with it. Some of these characters in the not worth it tier might be super narrow and really good in one specific thing, and that might really be it. The joke tier down here is someone who either is trumped in almost every facet, whether they're someone who's trying to enable a hyper carry DPS do more damage with some sort of buffs or debuffs, but they just don't seem to fulfill the roles that all the other characters above them do. Maybe there's someone who can be used in a team and used successfully, but if you just replace them with basically any character in the game, you'd almost be just as successful, if not more successful. And this is season 1 of Chaos Zero Nightmare, and we're not going to judge characters on exclusively how well they can use some of the new gear and new forbidden cards that have shown up, but if you take a look at a lot of the new stuff that's popped up in season 1, it sort of facilitates and reiterates the point of the power of being able to cycle through your deck and draw cards. And most of these characters who were already good doing that, because it was one of the most broken mechanics for consistency, for pulling off high DPS turns, turn after turn after turn, simply just got better based on the items added in season 1 of Chaos Zero Nightmare. Everything that was already good about them is just, well, there's more reason to do it, honestly, at this point in time. So let's judge what we put in this tier list before. This is where we ended off at, and do we need to adjust any of these characters before we talk about Yuki? So we have the busted tier, Casius in here as one of the top tier support DPS characters. You can pair him with someone like Trussa, who is also up in here with Mika, and you guys have probably seen the shorts. You've seen other people other than me use this team, a bunch of 4-star characters shoved into a team, doing crazy combos both inside and outside of chaos runs, whether you're trying to do something with your own save data or just building a nice, slow, consistent team with card draw, AP selection, healing, quest rewards, allowing you to do multiple things inside of a chaos run, whether you want that card draw, you want them to combo off with Trussa, you want to do some sort of consistent thing there. Casius can be used outside of that team. He's just one of the highest potential characters for deck selection, card selection, drawing specific cards, reusing specific cards with shuffle. He's just an absolute monster of a madman there. And if you wanted to take this man down a peg, you thought we were going to put him lower, absolutely not. We have stuff like Joker in shuffle being monstrously strong. Something like Devil Dice, with a lot of people not really talking about the epiphany that I talked about right away, with the retrieve 3 to just draw a card. In these teams that generate a bunch of AP with someone like Mika, or in teams where your other characters are very AP neutral with someone like Yuki, if you have one of these and you dupe it, which is a low cost of like 10 points to just put the base retrieve 3, 2 of these Devil Dice into his deck, 1 AP draw 3 is pretty good, or 3 AP draw 3 is pretty nice, and it does a little bit of damage as well, and it's very good at activating a lot of those card combos and some of the new card draw mechanics as well. So he just does a lot of crazy stuff, even outside of a combo. So he's definitely staying right there. Mika, we don't need to talk too much about. Honestly, at the end of the day, just this card alone is busted. You get a Divine Epiphany on this bad boy, so you can get like 3 AP. You get the normal Epiphany right here. It's not very hard when you're cycling your deck, taking damage from random debuffs and random monster attacks consistently, both in and outside of Chaos, to just have this base Epiphany, BA 0, give you 2 AP, heal you as well, dupe this a couple of times. A very solid card. You can get a card draw Epiphany on one of these as well. As a Divine Epiphany, it becomes one of the most busted cards in the entirety of the game. You just got to take out Whirlpool, maybe Water Arrow for your 2 cards that you want to take out. She doesn't need to take out a lot of cards, saving her a lot of deck slot potential and points when you're building her save data. And she's just an insane character. Absolutely no reason to move her off that slot. Trussa as well. She's here basically as one of the top enablers of characters who like to use multiple attack cards in a single turn. Her ability to generate shadow daggers and just be a monster character in that regard based off of shadow reload, shadow heal is just dummy strong. It's just really good. It's not that one. That's the bad one. It's this one right here, this initiation card that just starts in your hand. You're ready to rock and roll. You're always going to be Your game plan's always going to be on because this has initiation, which is why it is such a powerful strategy. You load in with like 2 or 3 of these. You go, I know what I'm doing turn 1. I'm going to cast these things. And then the rest of your party, the rest of your deck is ready to rock and roll. Whether you pair her with someone like Casius or if you pair her with someone like Hugo, she is an insane character. Rin, Mei single target, big DPS characters. Rin is pretty fucking busted at the end of the day because you can pair her with so many characters that like the card cycle. She's very good at card cycling herself as well in a lot of these situations and scenarios. Very similar to Yuki a lot of the times, but she's very good at drawing her own cards and doing good stuff. And it's not that difficult outside of Chaos to make her super crazy inside of Chaos. If you're using like a specific team, sometimes maybe you can be a little bit of but this is more about the busted tier, which is what we're looking at, using the maximum potential ratings for these characters. And for a single target DPS, she does so much damage that you can even get away with using her in AoE situations because you just take everything out one by one all in the same turn. She is a massively strong character. Mei for the same reason, whether you're doing the strike build on Mei where you spam a bunch of strikes using her unity of attack and defense skill, whether you're using a base version or the one that creates 2 strike cards, or even a combination. If you are, able to get a copy of the unity of attack and defense from defeating a boss or from an event inside of a chaos run before it epiphanies again and allows you to change it and transform it, you can actually end up with like one of the base versions in your deck at the end of the run, and then end up with like one of these or 2 of these if you duplicate this one in your deck as well for like a strike build where you have 2 of these upgrades and you generate 4 strikes, which kind of clogs your deck, but then you have like the base version of unity of attack and defense in your save data as well, which allows you to then draw 2 of those 6 strikes because you have the 4 that you generated and then 2 that are still in your deck naturally to help thin the deck back out and help her be that combo queen. Or you can even go for the big combo potential with Rising Dragonspire, which we talked about last time, where you pair her with some of the other passion characters who can just cast a lot of skills, herself included, over and over and over again. You can do the wonky Veronica thing, where you can just do obscene damage for a nice little YouTube screenshot there, or spread it out and just do crazy damage consistently every single turn. And these 2 characters we just talked about being able to combo out over and over consistently is why a lot of the times we're rating these characters who give card draw so highly, which is why we have Nia up here as well, but we'll get to Nia in a second. Haru, unlike Rin as well as Mei is the combo queen of using a 2-drop, but even then, at the end of the day, a lot of people who were first introduced into Haru, and we'll talk about this because she just got added to the standard banner. Listen, there's so many ways with save data etc., to just make these combos on her anchor shot just not do exactly what you want it to, right? You can have the one where you generate extra ones. You can have the one where you critical hit and you return it to your hand. You can have the one where it hits 2 times, right? You can do a lot of stuff out here. You can get like an AP cost reduction on this thing. You can have it generate AP back for you. You can do a lot of different stuff with this character. You can get the anchor pointer epiphanies in here as well, right? Damage bonus, crit chance increase, give it retrieve. You can move a lot of stuff. You can do so much damage, where she is also very similar as a nice combo, high potential DPS character. And one of the other things about Haru as well that doesn't really get talked about a lot is because a lot of her damage comes from like a single instance, a single source of damage. She also scales very well if you get any ways in your party to put vulnerable on your enemies, which like gives a giant damage increase, but then the vulnerable stat goes away. She can take a lot of advantage off of that, so you can get some really big Haru anchor shot combos with her deck and her kit there. Now, talking about card draw and stuff, Nia is someone who just even got better. Honestly, at the end of the day, Nia is just the #1 character when it comes to finding cards out of your deck for your team. Probably a little bit, definitely a little bit ahead of Casius, even in a lot of circumstances. And I'm someone who plays Casius a ton. And most of it is because of this skill, Adagio. You get some of these epiphanies here. You can discard a card of your choice and then draw 2 cards of that combatant. So this is like a double tutor, which is insane. And this gets even better with what we know about save data now. If you want to check out the save data video, go for it. Because a lot of the times, removing too many base cards, in my opinion, is how you get those really garbage save datas where that just starts doing random stuff. So you're gonna leave a couple of the attacking base cards in a lot of your DPS's decks nowadays, so you can make room for like a neutral or 2 or a forbidden card now in season 1. So those cards that you wanted to have removed out of your deck and you don't want to draw them in the first place actually have a use, so you can make better save data even though you have like a junkie card or 2 left behind. And Nia can capitalize on that, discard the junkie card with Adagio, and go get some of the really powerful Divine Blessing Epiphany cards because you left room in your save data limit to abuse with Adagio. You have the extra Nutri card, you have the extra Divine Blessing because you left the crappy, 1 or 2 base cards in your DPS's deck or in the other character's deck, and you can just go tutor them out with this version of Adagio. And it is draw 2 cards, which is crazy. You can go ahead and play this version of Adagio here where you can draw 1, discard 1, and then you get another copy of the base Adagio as well. So you can draw another one and then move a card to the top of the deck, which can be useful for some characters, I guess, that we're seeing that like that mechanic. Or then you can just have the draw 2, discard 2, which is useful with a lot of the new equipment. You can put this on there and then use some of her other skills as well. I think the best version though is the tutor. A lot of the times when you're trying to do broken stuff, this version of Adagio is insane. But she's also got the crazy Nia's Curiosity, very easy. You don't have to worry about epiphany bonuses on it, taking up extra save data. This card is just insane on its own. Look at the top 3, draw 1, put it in your hand. So you can copy this 1 or 2 times, and that's an insane thing for a very low save data loadout limit. And you can even get like G Cord that allows you to go ahead and either remove cards off the top of your deck that you don't want, or if you're playing this, you can go ahead and just like play some higher cost cards, pick the top 3, play 1. Even if you're just paying 1 to go play a card for 1 as well, even if you're paying 1 and you are like, I'm gonna use Source of Water, get a refund on it, you're still digging down towards the cards that you want at a low to no cost, which makes this skill absolutely insane. So Nia's a fantastic character and is one of the most busted characters in the game. Right behind her, we have the likes of the 2 supports, well, the 3 supports, I think, that are just a little bit below the likes of like Casius, Mika, right, and Nia. These are the 3 most used characters that you'll see nowadays too, for the reasons we just talked about. But after that, behind them, you have these 3, right? You have these 3 characters. Now, Veronica, Selena, and our girl right here are really good. on their own right. In their own right, they're crazy, right? Ray is all about boosting up damage for basic cards, or just base cards that cost 1 or less, or cards that are void. So she's a very nice void support there. She's got a couple of nice ways to buff up those damage types. She can give you access to morale with Predator's Blade, which is a nice little 80% damage bonus for 1 turn. But then she also has a little bit of an ability to do that card draw thing as well. Kind of similar to the same benefit that Adagio has, where you can utilize those garbage leftover basic cards and get an advantage out of it, right? Where you can use the garbage cards, leave them in the deck, and they will have a purpose, a twofold purpose. I really want to get this in there. That's why I keep talking about it. Where you're able to make your deck better by leaving in the 2 basic cards so they don't count towards the points to your save data limit. So you have better Divine Blessings, another copied card that's really good for you, another neutral, something that's a forbidden card or 2. And then Snack Time takes advantage of this because you can remove those cards from the battle and you never have to draw them again. She'll permanently thin those out. You don't want to have to see those garbage basic cards again. And then she will automatically, on top of that, draw you cards. So not only are you getting, it's like a trifactor benefit where your deck's better and you don't really suffer the downside a lot of the times of having those basic cards in your deck because she's removing them for you. So you can use this version where you choose 2 and draw a card for each if you happen to have 2 basics in your hand, or you have this version that I like a little bit more where you can use this Snack Time 2 times before this one's gone from the battle as well. So you can spread it out, heal a little bit, and draw a card each time. Very, very strong. A lot of the times, very powerful, very low cost to have in your deck. Duplicate this a couple of times and you will be able to, in the battle, really thin your guys' deck down, and to the point where, like, honestly, I almost want to put her up in busted tier because of how strong that is now that we have the knowledge of the save data loadout limit and what Ray really does at the end of the day, allowing you to just, whoever you use with her is just inherently better if you build your deck with her in mind. And honestly, I don't even think you build your deck with her in mind. I think that's just the best way to build those decks now. At the end of the day, at the top tier, just squeak out those extra, what, the 50, like taking out your final 2 neutrals is 40 per neutral it adds. And then if it's your 3rd and 4th removal, it's 0, 10, 30. That's another 30, 40. It's 80. It's 30, 50, 80 plus 40. It's 120 points to take out your last 2 basic cards. And these 2 characters feast off of you leaving them in there because you get 120 points to add to your deck with powerful neutrals, with powerful Divine Blessings that are copied and stuff like that. And these characters feast off of that save data limit. So yeah, I think I'm gonna actually put her up in busted tier because that's such a strong thing. Selena and Veronica, we don't need to touch on too much, but they are very powerful characters. Selena is an extremely powerful, like, follow-up attacker that works very well with all of the card cycling multi-attack stuff we were talking about before, and she can work well in those teams as well. So she can benefit from them twofold, right? She can put the marks on, do the follow-up attacks that way. She also has the very powerful mechanic of being able to, where's the card that I love so much? Something like this, where you do a bunch of tenacity damage to make sure you're weakness breaking things and doing shields so you can live a little bit longer in some circumstances on some of the higher difficulties. But she really is like a follow-up attacker. And she works well with the card draw stuff because she also has, is it Target Spotted that has the attunement bonus to, like, draw a card as well, is very nice. She's got a lot of stuff on Ravage Coordinated Attack if you're doing that. But my favorite one is this one here where you shield and mark all enemies. She's very strong in a lot of different ways. You can use her as like a shielder support who does a little bit of follow-up, a shielder support who tenacity damages, a shielder support who draws you some cards, and just a big mark follow-up attacker where she just works really well. You can even use her with someone like Trussa in a lot of times. So she's very powerful in those circumstances. Oh, I own her now. All right, Veronica is in here as well. And she's just like, I think, like almost not not just like a better version of Selena. They do different things. They're kind of similar. They like to shield and draw cards, right? They like to do that thing and then do some free follow-up damage, follow-up attacks, where Veronica does it with her ballista mechanic. Selena does it with her mark mechanic. A lot of the time you're going to argue one's better than the other. This does that. She's key here for the Meilin combo. But at the end of the day, I don't think they belong in different tiers, because I think they're better than the characters below them, but I don't think they belong up in busted tier, so I'm gonna keep them right there as well. Calliope, very interesting. I mean, if you're looking for a big 2-cost AoE damage dealer, shielder, hybrid character, there's no one else that really kind of does exactly what she does a lot of the times. Her interesting mechanic is that she is used with the celestial mechanic, or divine, whatever it's called now, celestial now. And a lot of the other characters don't really want to be casting 2 costs a ton of the time. So she's kind of there, but also at the same time, it's fine, because some of these other characters, once they have divine blessings on their cards, AP reduction, a little bit of AP increase to your team, you do get to play like a 0 and a 1 or 2 1s, and then you have 4 AP and play a 2 for her and proc all of her stuff. And she just does a tremendous amount of work in those teams. She's got a little bit of mix of card draw, a little bit of sustain, a little bit of damage over time, a little bit of AoE damage with Vulture ejection. And if you're just looking for like that solid, like I want to tank and be good in parties, she's right there. Renoa as well as Hugo, I think these 2 characters have a pretty high floor for damage, but not quite as high of a ceiling for damage as the likes of Rin, Meilin, and Haru. So we have them in tier 0. Kairon and Magna are exactly what we defined as the high tier. If you build a team around them specifically, they will do very good things for you. If you try to just slot them into random teams, it's kind of whatever. And so because they're a little bit more niche than some of the other characters up here, they don't really inherently do anything busted or broken, but they do, just like a lot of the other characters, benefit from extra AP, extra card draw. And so that's where we're going to put them right there. If you love these characters, you want to build a team around these characters, they're awesome for you. Mid, we have 1 right now, but actually I ended up at the end of the day putting Beryl in not worth it, because I was like, she's really good in that 1 team, but outside of that 1 team, she's like kind of not the greatest. I think I'm going to move her back up into high, because of the fact that if you build a team around Beryl, she's pretty good. I don't believe she is in like the not worth it tier, like the retained team. I just really don't like the retained team that much. I like a lot of endgame stuff with gear and stuff. It's pretty good. You can clear it right now, but I was doing stuff without gear, under leveled, compared to what I was doing with like, you know, people were doing like geared Beryl with decks. So I'm not 1,000% sure that she belongs above mid, but building a team around Beryl, like she's fine. She's just really narrow, but I guess narrow kind of is the definition of my high tier. So we're going to put her right there. Mid, listen, this girl, Maribel, she's like the definition of mid in my mind. She's fine. She does stuff. Like we said, can you make any character in this game, on this tier list, work for you? Yeah, but I'm going to leave her right there. These 3, Orlia, Luke, not worth it here. Doesn't mean that they aren't like busted and you can't like make them busted and do really cool things with them. But it's like, compared to this stuff out here where you're like making 2,000 damage mod Casius quests, like 14 of them, right? And dumping them all for 3,000. I haven't been able to complete a Casius combo all the way without and run out of steam because the monsters still can die. So we'll see where that, you know, if you're comparing like Luke to that, it's like, how far away from that is Luke? And I would have to like say like, not worth it. Like, are we going to run Luke over Orlia? You know, like obviously he's worse. I think he's worse than that. Maybe you put him in mid, but like, honestly, at the end of the day, I don't know. I put him in not worth it because there's so many other DPS that benefit off of game mechanics compared to Luke. Lucas, we're not going to talk about specifically seasons 1 chaos runs in here. Some of the stuff's Passion Week in there, and he does do pretty well with the mechanics inside chaos, but this is like a are you busted list. Tell me Luke belongs anywhere near Veronica or Selena or Meilin or Ray or Nia. Tell how many tiers down does he belong? And he belongs right down here. Oh, we don't really need to talk too much about. He tries to put like vulnerability 1 stack on, makes you attack 2 times or whatever. But all of the other mechanics in the game are way better than what he allows us to do. And then I know I'm going to get hated out again in the world for this because it's like, I use Amir with my tank team and it's cool and she does damage and it's very nice. And a lot of the times if you see an Amir in a team, guess who she's paired with? She's paired with Magna. And guess who's doing all of the work? It's not Amir. Amir's not doing the work, right? You could literally replace that Amir in that team with Veronica, and it would just be like an infinitely better team, like 1000% of the time. That's going to leave us with Yuki. So where are we going to put Yuki? She goes unjoked here, right? Well, when we first look at Yuki, a lot of players really focus around the flash slash. They're always like, ooh, big flash slash, big AoE damage, dude. 1 mana, 270 mod, that's pretty decent. But if you go ahead and look at the content that we're in right now, especially the harder difficulty content, there's not a lot of situations where you want AoE damage. And there's not a lot of situations where even if you would want AoE damage, where the situation actually demands that you have a significant amount of AoE damage. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if there's an AoE scenario, how many monsters are we talking about? On average, 3, maybe 4 sometimes, right? And so if you have 3 or 4 monsters, you don't really need a bunch of AoE damage being spammed out by something like Flash Slash for 2 mana or 3 mana or whatever, right? We don't need all of that. Is it a necessity? No. And a lot of players are building around Flash Slash. And so you'd be like, oh, that means that she's going to end up mid tier or not worth it tier or something garbage like that, right? Well, at the end of the day, if you go ahead and look at what we talked about, what's the most busted stuff you can do? Being AP efficient, drawing cards, having cycles like that. She works very well with all of the broken characters, right? Ray, Nia, Mika. You could use her with Trussa. You can use her with Hugo. You can use her with Casius. And now you go, Hugo, but she does AoE damage. What are you talking about? Well, the people who are having a lot of success with this character are actually using the build that I said you guys should check out. And it's revolved around being super efficient with the draw pile card with prepare to subdue, where you're either using the one where you're super self-sufficient, or you draw 2, but they have a damage reduction, or you pair her with some of the characters that allow you to just draw cards like crazy. And then she benefits off of that. This one turns into draw 2 cards, just like the other one, but get a damage bonus instead. And you're saying, well, okay, well, Flash Slash, it's not good. We're talking about Hugo. What are we doing? Trickery Strike. Everyone's ignored this. I don't know why. This thing becomes free with a 260 mod. Single target. So all of the marks that you want to proc off Selena work with it. It becomes free, so you can use it with Hugo. She's casting skills for free. She's casting attacks for free. And she works very well with the save data limit as well, where you can take out like flowing parry for your 1 remove. This will be 0 plus 20, so it's going to be 20 points towards your remove. You can duplicate just like a base version of this prepare to subdue. That's going to cost you 0 because it's your first duplicate. And then you go ahead and just get the base Epiphany for Trickery Strike over here if you want. This one right here. Copy this 2 times. If you copy this 2 times, it's your second copy, 10 points, third copy, 40 points. If you want to, or 30 points for 40 total. If you want to go again and copy it yet again, it's going to be 50 points. So that'd be 100 points towards this Trickery Strike. And then 20 points right there. If you want to build a very concise deck, you can do that. And you're left with 2 Prepare to Subdues, remove Flowing Parry, still have Iceberg Cleave, still have Freezing Blade doing free damage for you. Put 3 extra Trickery Strikes into your deck. A lot of times it can be 2 extra Trickery Strikes, but you could do 3 if you wanted for big damage off this Epiphany right here. Single target, proccing your Hugo, proccing everything. And you're able to cast 3 or 4 of these for free, drawing them off your own cards for no AP. And then you could have like a Flash Slash in there for free. You know, if you do the 0/1 just for an extra card that you can draw, do damage that way, put that bad boy in there. You can do this one right here as well. Just have it sit there as like a retain thing, right? For a giant multiplier, right? You can hit this, what is this? 60, 80, 180. Yes, 180 plus this 500 mod for 2 after the end there. Just, you haven't used any AP. It sits there until you have some extra AP for your turn. Drop all your Trickery Strikes, bop, 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 blamp them, right? You have Iceberg Cleave still, and then you still do all the free damage from Freezing Blade. And you say, oh, but we're left with the 2 garbage Longsword Slash, Rapid Slash. I don't want to cast those, you know, I don't want to use those. She's the AoE character. Well, if you're putting her in teams that want her to use her single target attacks, at the end of the day, you have a couple single target attacks that'll proc your Hugo. Everyone's very AP efficient. That's fine. But if you recall, two of the characters she pairs really well with abuse the fact that you leave the two basics into the deck. So now you can discard Longsword Slash or exhaust Rapid Slash with either Ray or Nia, tutor out two cards with Adagio, get a Prepare to Subdue, right? Put this in there, draw the card, get 20% damage on your two Trickery Strikes that are now free, you know, exhaust something that's garbage out of your hand, draw another card, you know, play 3 or 4 Trickery Strikes, Flash Slash. A lot of things you can do with this character. If you have that build, that is the build you go for. And we're not talking about using crazy unique cards and crazy divine blessings and crazy forbidden cards from season 1, although those would make her even more broken. She becomes a very self-sufficient character you can pretty much pair anywhere, right? Like we just talked about, oh, what if we left this version of Flash Slash in our deck? And we talked about Calliope not too long ago. We're like, well, Calliope really sometimes she's really good with what she does. And I put her in tier 0 because she does it so well. But a lot of the times you have to play her with specific characters. You need to be able to generate AP with Mika so you can play 2 1 costs and then play a 2 cost. You can put Yuki in a Calliope team, brothers, and you can just cast like 3 or 4 Yuki cards for free. Be like, oh man, that was really nice. And then just cast this version of Flash Slash for 500% mod, proc every Celestial. There's so many things that you can do with this character that I don't think I'll put her in busted tier yet, but I think she deserves at least high. This is a different circumstance where this is, if you have a specific build, she's good basically anywhere, versus if you build around her, she's good. And I think if you put that build together where you just can spam out a bunch of free shit and she just allows you to just rock and roll, she deserves at least tier 0 right now. The only thing that's keeping her from busted tier is you are never hitting the heights of some of these combos out here in a lot of circumstances. I could see myself putting her up there, but like, you know, the wonky, like I got it all melee in 50k damage, 30k damage turns, 70k damage turns, right? The potential for brokenness, I don't think she'll ever be able to hit that. She'll just be able to be an extremely powerful, versatile character that you can kind of slot anywhere. If her multipliers are high enough and she allows the team to benefit enough off of those, she belongs in tier 0. If at the end of the day it turns out that she doesn't, then maybe she belongs just in high. But I think with the proper build, and it's weird because it's get the right build, not put her in the right team, she belongs in tier 0, because with that right build, you can kind of basically play her in any party you want. And if that makes sense to you, then I think we're on the same page as far as Yuki goes. And I'm going to leave her there. I'm actually going to rate her very highly, which I think a lot of people are going to actually end up rating her or call her like mid or a 6 out of 7 or something. I think she's like, I think this is like a solid 8, right? My tier 0 is like an 8 or a 9 out of 10, right? Something like that, right? If this is like 11 to 10, this is like 8 to 9, you know, 8 to 7, 5, 6, something like that. It's like a flexible fluid thing. But if that makes sense to you, you let me know down below. Godspeed, have fun out there, and I'll catch you in the next KS0 Nightmare. Why did I rhyme? Why did I